Tonight, the Vogue treatment. All of the women running for president appearing in a new issue of Vogue magazine, talking about what it's like to run for president. Well, all of the women except one, Marianne Williamson, conspicuously absent from the profile and the photo shoot. That same Marianne Williamson joins me out front now. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Do you know why you weren't part of this profile about this? It's about the history being made, the historic number of women running.
I know. I just saw it online like everybody else did. Saw a lot of people tweeting about it. And no, nobody talked to me.
No one reached out to you? No one gave you an answer? No one reached out and there was a scheduling conflict and you couldn't be part? Or?
Well, no. Although when we asked about it, we were told that their decision was to make it only about the elected officials. And that I do challenge, because this decision...
I want to hear that, because that's exactly what Vogue said when CNN asked them about it, Marianne. They said this: we're in no way discrediting Marianne Williamson and all she's accomplished. For the photo, Vogue wanted to highlight the 5 female lawmakers who bring a collective 40 years of political experience to this race. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, well... No, it absolutely does not, because the framers of the Constitution were very clear about who's qualified to run for president. They did not make any media, certainly not Vogue magazine, the gatekeeper here. The framers of the Constitution said that in order to run for president, in order to be qualified to be president, you have to have been born here, you had to have lived here for 14 years, and you have to be 35 years or older. Now, if they had wanted to say you had to have been an elected official, they would have, and they didn't for a reason. They were leaving it to every generation to determine for itself the skill set that that generation feels is most necessary in order to navigate the times in which we live. And that kind of bias on the part of media, it's very insidious, it's very subtle. It's a suggestion that only those who have elected office in their past are qualified. Now, this is not in any way to minimize or to disparage those qualifications, but there are other kinds of qualifications. And Franklin Roosevelt said that the primary aspect of the presidency, he said the administrative aspect is secondary, and the primary role, he said, is moral leadership. So this should not be anybody's decision but the American people.
Yeah, I mean, so if Vogue offered you a spread now, would you take part?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I sort of, we did offer that, actually. But the press said, you know, she'd be glad to do a story, and they wrote back and said, well, thank you so much for the offer.
Okay. Look, this is the first chance that we've had to talk to you since the big debate, and there was something that you said, a moment, that got a lot of folks nodding their heads, almost a warning that you offered up to the Democratic Party. Let me play it.
No, it's really nice if we've got all these plans, but if you think we're going to beat Donald Trump by just having all these plans, you got another thing coming. Because he didn't win by saying he had a plan. He won by simply saying, make America great again. We've got to get deeper than just these superficial fixes.
Do you think that anyone else in the Democratic field gets that?
I don't know. I know what I was saying, though. If you look at Marianne2020.com, if you look at my issue section, which has been up there since the beginning, I have very detailed policy plans. However, I also remarked that when John Kennedy said we are going to the moon, he didn't say, I'm going to talk to all these NASA scientists and see if maybe we can make it happen. I'm talking about the role of imagination in inspiring people. I'm talking about what it takes to actually motivate people. And that is going to be necessary if we are going to defeat Donald Trump. Donald Trump did not win just because of the people who were passionate about him. Donald Trump also won because of many people who did not vote and many people who voted third party. So if he's going to win again, it won't be just because of people who are so excited about him. If he wins again, it would be because not enough people were inspired. And my point is that we have to talk about a vision for this country, not just prosecuting against what was, which is necessary, but also inspiring what America can be. I think people are exhausted of the fight, and what I'm talking about is a vision for America, addressing the things we need to address in order for the United States to be better than ever in the 21st century. And without that, we will not win in 2020.
There was also another moment in the debate when everyone on the stage was asked what was the first order of business, the first thing you want to tackle if you win. Here's what you said.
My first call is to Prime Minister of New Zealand, who said that her goal is to make New Zealand the place where it's the best place in the world for a child to grow up. And I will tell her girlfriend you were so on, because the United States of America is going to be the best place in the world for a child to grow up.
That answer's gotten a lot of attention as well. How Your first order of business that you'd want to accomplish in the White House, Marianne?
First of all, you have more than one thing that you do when you enter the Oval Office, obviously.
Of course.
But a pillar of my campaign is to address the chronic trauma of millions of American children who go to school every day in classrooms that don't even have the adequate school supplies with which to teach a child to read. And if a child cannot learn to read by the age of 8, the chances of high school graduation are drastically decreased, and the chances of incarceration are drastically increased. Many of these children, millions of them, go to school hungry. Millions of them live in what are called America's domestic war zones, where psychologists tell us that they are experiencing a level of PTSD that is no less severe than the PTSD of a returning veteran from Afghanistan or Iraq. Now, their despair is simply normalized by the political establishment. To me, we should be rescuing these children no differently than if they were the victims of a natural disaster. It is a pillar of my campaign. That's why I want a Department of Children and Youth. I want just like Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, has said she wants New Zealand to be the best place in the world for a child to grow up. I want every school in the United States to be a palace of learning. That is not nothing. These children, to me, this is a civil rights issue, how much the despair of millions and millions of children, just because they're not old enough to work, so they have no financial leverage, they're not old enough to vote, so they're not a constituency, their needs are routinely dismissed. That should not happen in the United States of America.
Marianne Williamson, thank you so much for coming in. We'll see you on the trail.
Thank you. Thank you.